Shalom, everyone. James chapter 4, verse 4. Adulterers and adulteresses, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with YaHuWaH? Whoever therefore intends to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of YaHuWaH. Now, this video is just going to be about a little bit about what that means and why that is so. Friendship with the world. 1 John chapter 2, verse 15. Do not love the world, nor that which is in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. Now, I consider that a powerful verse and something that people should meditate on and really consider what is the meaning of that. Because a lot of people would say, you know, what's wrong with the world? I mean, after all, he created the world, didn't he? So, what does this mean? In the Gospels, John chapter 7, verse 7, YaHuWaH says to his disciples, it is impossible for the world to hate you, but it hates me because I bear witness of it that its works are wicked. Okay. So I came across a quote a few days ago in a video, which I consider a pretty powerful quote, and I just want to share it right here. This is by a man named Michael Elner. He was an author, hypnotherapist, and president of an organization called Health Education AIDS Liaison. He was the president from 1983 to 2016, and he died this year, February 26th of 2018. And he is quoted, I believe that he wrote this in a book, he is quoted as, just look at us. Everything is backwards. Everything is upside down. Doctors destroy health. Lawyers destroy justice. Psychiatrists destroy minds. Scientists destroy truth. Major media destroys information. Religions destroy spirituality. And governments destroy freedom. Wow. Okay, so just look at us. Everything is backwards. Everything is upside down. Now, I believe that encapsulates the satanic law of inversion as to the way everything should be. If anyone has read 1984, for instance, by George Orwell, whose real name was Eric Blair, everything is the opposite of the way it should be, and everything is called the opposite of the way it is. For instance, you know, people live in these slums, but they're called victory mansions, or, you know, something to that effect. You know, kind of like in our world where, you know, at least in America, the banking system is controlled by an entity known as the Federal Reserve. But it is not federal, and it has no actual reserves. So it's the opposite of what it is, but it gives the impression that this is something good. Okay. So where Michael Elner says, scientists destroy truth. I want to share a quote here by JFK. Now, this can be found on YouTube in the JFK Secret Society speech. If you just want to check that out, I believe it's about 19 minutes long, the whole speech. And this part that I'm going to share comes in at about the 10-minute mark. Okay, maybe I'll just leave a link for that in the description box. So JFK, this is a famous quote. He describes the system that we're living under in a very eloquent manner, but he addresses you know, the scientific establishment here. Okay, now he said this in April of 1961. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced and not praised. So when he was referring to scientific operations, that are in this system, which has conscripted vast human and material resources, and it is a tightly knit, highly efficient machine, okay, things can be presented as science, but is not really science. It is not really based in true science at all. But if the establishment calls it science, then anybody who opposes that, they will simply be called, some pejorative label such as anti-science. So our entire scientific system, our world, is based on two fundamental scientific tenets, which has been promoted as truth, and that is evolution and this cosmology of outer space and heliocentrism. Okay? Now, I believe that both of those notions are entirely false. Without going into this issue of cosmology here, I just wanted to address that our entire scientific system is based on these two tenets, which are presented as truth and are assumed to be true by most people out there. Now, I believe that this system that JFK is describing here, the system that we live under now, is prophesied in the Bible in several places. Daniel chapter 7, and also in extra biblical books as 4 Ezra or 2nd Esdras, but also in a book called 2nd Baruch. Now, Baruch was a scribe of the prophet Jeremiah, introduced in the standard canon in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 36. So I'm going to read a little bit from 2nd Baruch right here. Now, 2nd Baruch can be found in different places, may be able to be found in the 1611 KJV. Okay, but I'm going to be reading from the Cepher, cepher.net, C-E-P-H-E-R. And this is 2nd Baruch chapter 39, verses 5 and 6, describing this system that I believe we live under today and is prophesied as the fourth beast of the fourth kingdom. Okay. And after these things a fourth kingdom will arise, whose power will be harsh and evil, far beyond those which were before it. And it will rule many times as the forests of the plain, and it will hold fast for times, and will exalt itself more than the cedars of Lebanon. And by it the truth will be hidden. And all those who are polluted with iniquity will flee to it, as evil beasts flee and creep into the forest. Now, I consider these verses right here in 2nd Baruch 39, 5 and 6 to be particularly salient to this discussion right here, because when it says, do not love the world nor that which is in the world, in 1 John, if anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. And James 4:4, that whoever therefore intends to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of YaHuWaH. Well, why is that so? Because the world that we live under today, is a system which is particularly harsh and evil, far beyond those which were before it. And why I say that? It's just as former Congressman Lawrence Patton McDonald summed up so eloquently, is that it is international in scope, generations old in planning, and incredibly evil in intent. Okay, incredibly evil in intent is true, but also it is a powerful world system which makes it different from other kingdoms. It is not a localized kingdom, and this is why it is particularly harsh and evil, because it operates on covert means, as JFK described it. Okay, so also this connects very well with having friendship with the world and why this is enmity or hostility with our Creator YaHuWaH. As it is described here, all those who are polluted with iniquity will flee to it as evil beasts flee and creep into the forest. Now this means basically that, for those who are attracted to the system and want to join the system, so to speak, and are just, willing to serve it and just want to make money and these sorts of things, that's what it's describing right here. This particular system that we live under right now, many may not realize what it is, but if there's a particular allure to being drawn to it, that's what this is referring to. And it says, those who are polluted with iniquity will flee to it. Now this I draw a strong correlation with having friendship with the world that we live under today. So to expound a little bit on, Michael Elner's quote from above, first it reads, doctors destroy health. Okay, now how's that so? Well, without going into a long explanation of it, as I have followed the information, the truth about vaccinations, okay, for one thing, is that I don't believe that they're merely ineffective, but this is actually toxic cocktails which are deliberately injected into people and then promoted as something good as to prevent disease, but it actually works just the opposite. Like he says, just look at us, everything is backwards, everything is upside down. So many people who may join the medical establishment may believe that they're doing so for good. But with all the information that is out there now regarding this particular topic, I don't believe that ignorance on this matter is acceptable at all, especially by people who are in the medical establishment, who are therefore smart enough to attain degrees and get through medical school. Okay, they should realize, they should, in my opinion, be able to see through the indoctrination that is presented in these schools, which is purely allopathic and purely based on drugs for the most part. Okay, so also, but I mean, even more so than that is the suppression of cancer cures. Now, I believe in this day and age right now, with the abundance of information that is out there regarding this issue, I mean, that is a crime against humanity. That is a massive crime against humanity. This suppression of cancer cures, so that massive profits can be made from people who are dying and diseased, and the massive profits that come from chemotherapy. Okay, let's see. So, in particular, I want to share the story of a couple doctors here in a nutshell: Jeffrey Bradstreet and Anne Baroque. Now, these two particular doctors are examples of doctors who, in my opinion, are real doctors who really and truly do true research and actually do want to do good and are willing to take the risks that come with doing that, with going against this beast system and going against the interests of big pharma and going against the interest of profiting from disease and maintaining our disease rather than presenting, actual cures for things. Because, I mean, if cures for cancer were let out and everybody understood this, there would be massive decrease in profits in the cancer industry, in the medical industry altogether. I mean, massive. And it does not take an extraordinarily intelligent person to make that connection. Therefore, I'm just wondering why more doctors would not take a stand against this or question that, because this seems to be a relatively simple concept. There is a massive amount of money to be made from disease, but there's not so much money to be made from actual health if the population were entirely healthy. Okay, so Erin Elizabeth over at the YouTube channel Health Nut News, and also, she has a great website, healthnutnews.com. She has covered what is commonly known as, the holistic doctor deaths. Okay, and there's been a lot of them. Last I checked, it was over 90, and this is over the past 3 years or so. This is a very interesting phenomena, but also a very tragic phenomena. And I just wanted to discuss, a couple cases right here. And once again, that's Jeffrey Bradstreet. This is from the summer of 2015. I remember this story when it happened. So just to discuss that for a moment here. Now, Jeffrey Bradstreet, he was doing research into something known as GCMAF, and that stands for GC protein-derived macrophage activating factor, and it claims to treat a range of conditions, including cancer, HIV, and autism in particular, because there's a strong connection between autism and vaccinations, even though the establishment would have you believe that's quote-unquote conspiracy theory. Okay. Also, GCMAF treatment is a highly effective macrophage activating therapy used to stimulate the immune system and activate macrophages so that they can destroy cancer cells and other abnormal cells in the body. Okay, so this man was working with GCMAF, and he was doing a lot of good, and he was helping a lot of people. He has a son, or he had a son rather, that has autism, I believe. Okay, so in 2015, the summer of 2015, the FDA raided his Georgia office to seize GCMAF. Okay, now why would that be? Well, because this substance and this man are an actual threat to the way Big Pharma operates. Okay. 3 days after this raid by the FDA on Jeffrey Bradstreet's office, he was found dead in the Broad River in Rutherford County, North Carolina, and this was ruled a suicide. Now, how he died? A gunshot wound to the chest, and he was in a river. So, if I'm a police investigator and somebody, number one, it shouldn't be hard to establish motive within the first few hours of investigating what this man was doing and who he was and so forth. Now, does a doctor who's doing research into this just suddenly decide to go to a body of water, shoot himself in the chest, and then fall in the river, and that is how he committed suicide? Or maybe he jumped into the river and then shot himself in the chest, and he figured this would be the most effective way to commit suicide. I don't think so. I think that is extremely unlikely, to say the least. But it is much more likely that this person was knocked off and murdered because he's an actual threat to the profits of Big Pharma. And the point I'm making with this is, unfortunately, those who choose, I don't think that this man was necessarily a believer in YaHuWaH, okay, but he was going against the interests of the world, okay? This was not friendship with the world. He was putting himself in a dangerous situation, and this is the result. But one of the points I want to make on this is that the police rule this a suicide. Okay, they go along with this notion that, yeah, he committed suicide and so forth. And I want to say right there that by doing that, that is friendship with the world. That is why this is enmity or hostility with YaHuWaH, because that is bearing false witness as to what actually happened here. It should be obvious to any thinking person that this was most likely not a suicide. Okay? You got motive. Motive is not difficult to establish as to the death of this man. Okay? Now, also, to go into more detail on that regarding the police and so forth, this is a woman named Anne Baroque. This is in Los Angeles, 2017. Just to sum her up real quick, Dr. Baroque was a best-selling author who was widely respected for her research into healing multiple sclerosis and curing candida. She also managed to cure herself of multiple sclerosis when she was just 24 years old. She had written pioneering books on alternative therapies and was also an activist who campaigned about vaccine dangers, urging people to reject Big Pharma's products in favor of alternative and natural healing. Okay. She was found hanged in her garage, and this was also ruled a suicide. However, as I read from this article, despite the official ruling that she took her own life, detectives within the LA Police Department believe that the young woman was murdered in a professional hit. We're looking at this as a homicide, said a police source. The crime scene was too perfect. It looks more like she was suicide dead than took her own life. Okay? Whoever did this knew what they were doing. It was definitely professional, according to the LAPD. Attempts have been made to launch a murder investigation into Anne Baroque's death, but the case was shut down from above. Wow. That's powerful right there. Now, if you're an LAPD, you're a real detective out there who wants to fight crime. A capital crime such as the murder of a woman in the prime of her life doing good work for society gets hit in this way, and then that is, quote, shut down from above. Man, I'll tell you what, I would be extremely disappointed, saddened, and angry that this were the case if I were a police investigator and this happened. The problem with this is, police should not stand for that, okay? They should speak out and go against these things. Unfortunately, they're going along with being the servants of this beast system and going along with these things when they happen. This is just 2 examples out of many that are out there regarding these sorts of things. Okay? That is why that this is enmity, with YaHuWaH, because people are forced into serving the beast and serving the interests of the beast, which, as it describes in 2nd Baruch, is harsh and evil. This system is harsh and evil far beyond those which were before it. So our entire media system, is designed not to inform us, but to brainwash us and to disseminate very cleverly scripted propaganda so that we believe in the system and serve the beast. Okay? Also another case which which I consider really powerful, is the case of Nancy Schaefer. Nancy Schaefer was a Georgia state senator, and this was in 2010. She began to investigate on her own the child sex trafficking rings that were associated with CPS, or Child Protective Services. Okay, now that's Orwellian right there when it is called Child Protective Services, but they are actually involved. They are given monetary incentive to separate children from their families, okay, and oftentimes they wind up being sexually abused or being sold into child sex trafficking rings, which is absolutely horrific. Okay, so here you have a Georgia state senator who begins to discover these things and launch her own investigations, and she wasn't going to stop. And then in 2010, she's in her 70s with her husband. Her and her husband are found dead in their home of gunshot wounds, immediately ruled a murder-suicide. Here's a woman doing good work into this. Now, immediately, within hours, the Atlanta police should be able to realize what the motive for killing this woman is. Okay? And, you kill her husband along with it, and then it's called a murder-suicide. I mean, her husband just woke up one day and decided he was going to kill his wife and then kill himself. I mean, they're in their 70s. I mean, how often does that really happen? I mean, I'm sure that it does, but that's got to be extremely rare, especially for a woman who is doing this kind of work. So right there, I mean, that is just disgusting to the hilt that the police would go along with this and say, yeah, that's a murder-suicide. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. That's a hit to protect the enterprise, the lucrative but incredibly evil enterprise of child sex trafficking. Here's a powerful person, a powerful, influential voice who is going against that. Okay? So the result is that she gets murdered. I mean, so to go along with that narrative is bearing false witness and is friendship with the world. Okay. Okay, now, also to go back to kind of, the elements of Big Pharma, and this also ties in with, Michael Elner's, what he said about, psychiatrists destroy minds. I think this is very interesting right here. Revelation chapter 21, verse 8. But as for the fearful and the unbelieving and abominable and murderers and whoremongers and drug sorcerers and idolaters and all liars, their part is in the lake which burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. Now, in most English Bible versions, you will see where I read drug sorcerers, that is from the scriptures. Most English Bibles will read sorcerers, okay? But the Greek word associated with drug sorcerers or sorcerers is Strong's Concordance 5332, pharmakeus, okay? Pharmakeus. Obviously, that is where we get the terms pharmacy and pharmaceuticals, okay? This is a term that is, intimately connected with the medical establishment, obviously, okay? That's powerful right there. But in the eyes of our Creator, YaHuWaH, this is considered sorcery. The medical establishment that we live under today, which is based on pharmaceuticals, pharma, drugging, that is considered sorcery by him. Okay, so the definition of pharmakeus is a druggist, poisoner, magician, sorcerer. Wow. Okay, I consider that's powerful. That's something, people should look into that a little bit. Okay, so now this wasn't in Michael Elner's quote, but this is in relation to where it reads, let's see, scientists destroy truth. I would also say that the so-called education system or universities also destroy truth. So I want to share a quote right here. I'm going to leave a link to this in the description box as well. It's an hour-long video. It's a reading of a document that is entitled Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. It is a blueprint for enslavement and an operations and technical manual that was apparently put together in the 1940s. Now, according to Deborah Tavares, this was put together by elements of the Air Force, Harvard University, the Rockefellers, and the International Bankers, I believe is what she said. Now, I don't know if those particular elements, if that is accurate, but it was put together by elements of the ruling class, those who preside over the beast system in the world that we live in today. Okay, so from Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, this is a description, this is their blueprint, what is written concerning the education that the masses should receive. So in here, it refers to the quote-unquote lower class. So the lower class is not necessarily the poorest elements of society based on income. The lower class refers to you and I, the common person. This would even apply to people who are doctors, lawyers, professors, people in these respected professions in our society. They are considered the lower class from the position, from the point of view of the ruling class of this world. Okay? The synagogue of Satan, so to speak. Okay, so here's this quote regarding the way education should be disseminated to us. Begin quote. The quality of education given to the lower class must be of the poorest sort, so that the mote of ignorance isolating the inferior class from the superior class is and remains incomprehensible to the inferior class. Wow. With such an initial handicap, even the bright lower class individuals have little, if any, hope of extricating themselves from their assigned lot in life. This form of slavery is essential to maintain some measure of social order, peace, and tranquility for the ruling upper class. I mean, that is evil. That's unbelievable right there. Now, I realize that most people in academia may be unfamiliar with this. However, this is not the only place where such things are written regarding the true nature of the so-called education system. And I believe today, in the world that we live in today, although it is an evil system, much truth has come out about this. There is an abundance of information that we have at our fingertips if we are interested in seeking it out. But as he tells us in 2 Thessalonians, for those who do not receive the love of the truth, he will give them over to a reprobate mind by way of strong delusion. Okay? So it's like, if people want to remain in ignorance, if they want to be friends with the world, they will ignore things like this. So those going into academia ignore things like this and write this off, that it is somehow not true. Because, for a lot of people, it's about going out and making lots of money and having a particular status in the world, which, gives them self-worth. That they forge an identity for themselves and they want that to be valid, and they're going to ignore, things like this to the contrary. If you shared this quote right here with anybody in academia out there, I can guarantee it from personal experience that 99% or more are simply going to ignore this. They're going to write this off. They're going to find some way to deem this to not be true or to be invalid in some way, shape, or form. Okay? So what is essentially being taught, and might I add, that's friendship with the world. Okay, that's why it reads that is enmity with YaHuWaH, because it is a denial of truth. We live in a world in which truth is not taught. We are indoctrinated. Our minds are under heavy psychological and spiritual attack. Okay, this is by way of the education system, number one, but also by way of the media. So 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 19 describes what is essentially being taught from universities, okay, in the schooling system in America and worldwide. Okay, for the wisdom of this world is foolishness with Elohim. For it has been written, he catches the wise in their craftiness. Okay, the wisdom of this world is foolishness with Elohim. That is because the wisdom of the world is being taught here, and that indoctrinates people into believing in the system, believing in the beast, and then going out and serving it in some way, shape, or form. Okay, but true wisdom comes from YaHuWaH. Okay, so as I read from 2nd Baruch from the Sefer, this is also from the Sefer. This is the book of Sirach, Ecclesiasticus, Sirach chapter 1, verse 1. All wisdom comes from YaHuWaH and is with him forever. Okay, that is what is not taught. Okay, the truth is not taught. There are many things that are true, so to speak, which are taught, but they really don't ultimately matter. It is the truth which is not taught. And here's the truth right here. All wisdom comes from him and is with him forever. Sirach chapter 1, 26 and 27. If you desire wisdom, guard the commandments, and YaHuWaH shall give her unto you, her being wisdom. For the fear of YaHuWaH is wisdom and instruction, and faith and meekness are his delight. See, that's not taught. It's not even considered, not only that his, what his true name is, YaHuWaH, okay, but that he even exists whatsoever. We are taught to believe in materialism and mammon. As it reads in Matthew chapter 6, verse 24, Yahushua the Messiah tells us, you cannot serve YaHuWaH and mammon. Okay, so the world that we live in, the beast system, is based on mammon. It is about wealth and the acquisition of wealth and the acquisition of status. That is having friendship with the world, essentially is what that is. Okay. Also, this kind of sums up what the education system is about. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 7. Now, it's describing characteristics of people living in the latter days, and it comes to this verse, chapter 3, verse 7, that they are always learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. Okay, this is something that the education's, as why it appears to be education, is that the different things are taught and so forth, and people are learning different things, and they're basically taught that truth is relative, or that no one really knows what the truth is. Okay, but, we're seeking it and so forth. Okay, but in actuality, as it reads in 2 Baruch 39, 5 and 6, the truth is hidden by this system. Okay, so when it reads that, in Michael Elner's quote, that major media destroys information, I just want to share two quotes right here to sum that up, because I shouldn't really have to go into too much detail about that. I think that anyone listening to this is well aware of that at this point. The major media is really a farce, and it's really come out now. There's so much information about this. But just to share two quotes here. It's by a man named William Colby, who was once CIA director in the 1970s. He was replaced by none other than George H.W. Bush in 1976. And the reason that he was replaced is because William Colby was apparently too open with Congress about the workings of the CIA and what they were involved with in their programs and so forth. So they had to get rid of that guy. He was just, he was not secretive enough. He's quoted as this: the Central Intelligence Agency owns everyone of any significance in the major media. Okay, wow. Now, Project Mockingbird. Okay, this is one of the programs. Now, to follow up with that, if that is the case, William Casey in 1981, CIA director at the time, said this: we'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. Okay? So the CIA owns everyone of any significance in the major media, and then their disinformation program is about convincing Americans to believe that things which they believe to be true aren't really true. Okay? Now, how do they do that? Through the media. This is a major way how and why this is done. Many people know that the media disseminates propaganda, and they know that things are slanted, but they don't know why. But the key thing is they don't care to know why, and they won't seek it out. Okay? So governments, he also says, governments destroy freedom. Okay? The Latin verb guvernare, G-U-V-E-R-N-A-R-E, means to control. The Latin noun mentis means mind. So the word government literally means the control of the mind, or mind control. I think that it's in the very word right there. That sums that up enough. Okay, when he says religions destroy freedom, I want to read a verse from Revelation which I believe sums up the true faith in one powerful verse. And I've read this before. I read it all the time. It's Revelation chapter 14, verse 12. Here is the patience of the set-apart ones. Here are they that guard the commandments of YaHuWaH and the faith of Yahushua. Okay? So that is being a doer of the word, being a keeper of the commandments, the 10 commandments, okay, the keeping of the proper appointed times, okay, and the dietary laws that are laid out in the Torah. But also, we are given plenty of instruction in the Gospels and Proverbs as well throughout the Bible. But this is something that is not taught in organized religions that are out there. So when it says religions destroy spirituality. I believe that religion is, a bunch of counterfeit versions of what the true faith is. And I think that the true faith is summed up right there. So just to expound on that a little bit here, to differentiate between Easter and Passover. So in the Christian faith, in Protestant Christianity, Easter is revered and observed as, like the resurrection of Christ, okay? I think that anyone who is a believer should question what a bunny laying eggs has to do with Messiah, because the answer is nothing. It is rooted in paganism. Okay, so Exodus chapter 13, verse 9. Now, first, let's consider the mark of the beast, Revelation chapter 13, 16. The mark of the beast is inner upon the forehead, or inner upon the right hand. Okay, so in the Torah we are told that the keeping of his laws, statutes, and commandments, this is in Deuteronomy 6 through 8, and also Deuteronomy chapter 11, verse 18, that the keeping of his laws, statutes, and commandments is a mark as frontlets between your eyes, which is the forehead, and as a sign or a mark on your hand as well. Okay, that's a powerful correlation right there. That is not to say that keeping his commandments is the mark of the beast. That is the seal of YaHuWaH. The mark of the beast would be, as messenger of the name put it, any other contract. Okay, so I want to read from Exodus chapter 13, 9 then. This is specifically in regards to the feast of Passover and unleavened bread. And it shall be a sign to you on your hand and as a reminder between your eyes that the Torah of YaHuWaH is to be in your mouth. For with a strong hand YaHuWaH has brought you out of Mitzrayim, which is Egypt. Okay, so we are told right there that the keeping, and the observance of Passover is a mark in your forehead and a mark on your hand. It is a sign, it is a seal of YaHuWaH right there. So the keeping of Easter, therefore, is a counterfeit version of Passover. And I'm going to include links to teachings by Messenger of the Name. One of them is about the origins of Easter. This is a powerful teaching. I strongly encourage you to watch it. But also teachings on the Father's name, which is entitled Restoring the Creator's Name, Hashem Revealed, and also the name of Yahushua for the Messiah. And the title of that video is What is His Son's Name? Okay? Matthew chapter 24, verses 3 through 5. And as he sat on the Mount of Olives, the taught ones came to him separately, saying, Say to us, when shall this be, and what is the sign of your coming, and of the end of the age? And Yahushua answering said to them, Take heed that no one leads you astray. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Messiah, and they shall lead many astray. Okay, so this is an example of what I consider to be right here, what I was just talking about the observance of a counterfeit appointed time, Easter, compared to the true appointed time that is laid down by YaHuWaH in the Torah, Passover and unleavened bread. It says, many shall come in my name, saying, they are not saying that they are the Messiah. It is saying here, many shall come in his name, saying that he is the Messiah. They will correctly identify that he is the Messiah. And then the very next thing is, and they shall lead many astray. So they say to him, what is the sign of the end of the age? Okay, what is the sign of your coming? First thing he says, take heed that no one leads you astray. This is going to be happening. Okay, many will correctly identify him as the Messiah, but they will be leading people astray. Why is that? And I propose to you that this is one of the ways that this is done. It is to take out of the equation being a doer of the word and being a keeper of his commandments. And this is an example that I'm just giving right here regarding Passover and Easter. Okay? He says, they shall lead many astray, but they correctly identify him as the Messiah. So, go back to Revelation chapter 14, verse 12, which I believe sums up the true faith once again. Here is the patience of the set-apart ones. Here are they that guard the commandments of YaHuWaH and the faith of Yahushua. Okay, thanks for listening.